This is for you, Kings fans, wherever you may be. All the frustration and disappointment of the past is gone. The 45-year drought is over. The Los Angeles Kings are indeed the kings of the National Hockey League. They are the 2012 Stanley Cup champions.
What they need is nonsense, elimination, season on the line. They're relaxing, they're chilling. You know, Kawhi's getting the knee rubbed on, the legs rubbed on, taking care of business there. We'll start with them because we've been talking so much about the Lakers and Sparks and all that. So let's go to a Clippers Nation here, or Clipper Nation. Is it the S? Do you put the S there? Do you not put the S there? What's the right way to say that, Dime?
Clipper Nation, yeah, no S.
No S. Okay, Clipper Nation. Let's go heading over there. It's the game you love to hate to watch to love to play. Luka, now he's got a partner. I don't know if you heard about this guy, Kyrie. They like him a lot. They say he's the most talented, but I think that's just because he dribbles really well. But they've been playing great. Hot take, they might be the hottest team in the West right now. They've been playing some really, really great basketball. The reason they're so low is because they were more in that playing category, and they just kind of, the last month or so, were just playing so amazing. They ended up at the 5 seed. But it's not going to be easy. It never is easy against the Mavs. Let's preview the matchup here. Dime, I'll open it up to you. How are you feeling? Clippers, Mavs.
Not
another
great that
chapter.
Not great that we got matched up with the Mavs for a third time. I mean, just having to beat Luka Doncic 3 times in the playoffs is going to be a task in itself. The Kawhi thing is the most concerning thing. I mean, we know now, and I'm telling everybody that's watching this video right now, it is not load management. It is not that we are not being lied to this time. It's really knee inflammation, and it's really a question if the swelling can go down by the time the game's ready to go. He was a limited participant in practice as of Tuesday. So that's not running. So we've got a couple more days, but we should see what happens. He's going to do everything in his power. From what I'm being told, he's going to do everything in his power to play. So we know he's going to try. It's just crazy that we're having this conversation after all these games, Edwin. Like, the luck of this is just insane, though the bad luck. 68 games this guy played. But as far as Dallas, this is a very different Dallas team. Now Luka has a real co-star. You know, Brunson was not that Brunson yet. Porzingis, they just used him as a spot-up shooter, and that was a disaster. So the additions of Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington have given him more athleticism, more size. They're 21-8 with Daniel Gafford, and they've been the second best defense in the league with that, 5th best offense. And for the season, they have the highest win percentage in the clutch. And there's no secret why. Luka and Kyrie Irving. Games are close. I think we've been pretty good in the clutch this season, but I would favor them. You never want to go down the stretch of a game with Luka. But the whole defensive rating thing and their improvement, I've seen it. Gafford is the best rim protector they've had in this Luka era. Derek Jones is a good point of attack guy. PJ Washington, who we never knew about defensively in Charlotte. We never heard about them playing defense or anything like that. He's been a solid defender for them. But some of the Mavericks fans are saying PJ'll and he's going to lock this up. Look, he is the perfect body type to guard Kawhi, and he's gonna. But this is playoff Kawhi. Assuming that he's there and playing, is he going to be able to really contain him? Because Dorian Finney-Smith was a good defender, and he got lit up because nobody can guard playoff Kawhi when he's on. So a lot of the teams they're playing too, it's like in the regular season, when you take these numbers over a certain sample size, you could be playing against some weaker teams. Who knows if you're playing a team that doesn't have their best player that night? They just all get jumbled in. There are no off nights in the playoffs, Dallas. You're going to have to guard a good offense every single game. So here's my thing. Dallas, they have Kyrie Irving now. They're a better defensive team they've ever been. They play faster. It feels like they've kind of tailored their pace to everyone outside of Luka. You know, they have younger athletes on the team. You want to get Derek Jones out on the break. You want to get Gafford and Derek Lively running the floor. Kyrie's a pull-up 3 demon. And they've actually leaned into that. But Luka wants to play on a slower pace. And my last thing before I turn it back to you is, of those games with Daniel Gafford, only 6 of them came against actual playoff teams, 1 through 6. They were 1-5 in those games, and the only win they got was that Kyrie Irving game winner against Denver. And then in the 19 games versus playing and above, 12-7. So they had good success against these playing teams. And I want to give them credit because a lot of those games were against teams like Houston, for example, who were rolling and were fighting to make the play-in, and they beat them. But yeah, it's going to be a different series. How do you feel about it, though, from an outsider perspective? Because Luka does have the help now.
Yeah. One, I'm glad I'm on the outsider perspective, which I am, but I'm not, because obviously I'm going to be talking about them here. So I'm still doing some work, but I'm not emotionally like, I'm fine. Whatever happens, I'm cool with. For the pod, I hope that well, I don't know. I guess I got to see what happens with us before I'm like, because the last thing I want to do is talk about my team's, dying and your team's thriving. That might not be the funnest thing for me. But in general, let's just, if I had total control, both teams advance to the next round, because that's great for the content aspect of it. But I don't actually emotionally, like you said, I'm not as worried. I'm like, hey, what happens? It's cool. What I know is going to happen, we're going to get some great basketball. So if you're a neutral person, this might be the best series in the West, right? Because it's 4-5, so theoretically 2 even teams, and we've seen Clippers, against Mavs, and it's always like knock them out, drag them out, bang, bang, bang. I think it's going to go 6 or 7. I don't see anybody beating either side in 5, barring injury, of course. But if they're relatively healthy, it's going 6-7. And I think it's probably going 7. So get the popcorn ready, because it's going to be a show. It's going to be fireworks. So I think what I'm most excited about is seeing the counters, now adding this other element of Kyrie and Russ to a lesser extent. He's going to be an X factor. He always brings it. He always brings the energy. He's a dog. He's been so good for the Clippers, and he's been so good even coming back with his injuries. He's getting into it, and we saw him last year how incredible he was in the playoffs. He's going to bring that energy. He's going to bring it defensively as well. I think he's going to be the wrench that might win you a game or two. And against the Mavs, that's huge. That might be the series. We might be talking about him having an important moment where you're like, oh, he won game 5. And that changed things up. So I think that's something I'm definitely keeping an eye on as well. The X factor, that's Russ. And, Tyler's just such a good coach. He knows how to work on it. I love his answer. I think it was like a couple games ago. They're like, oh, when are you going to start getting ready for the Mavs? He's like, I already started. So, he's locked in. He's locked and loaded, looking at all the options and all the things he's going to do. I'm very curious. Game 1. That's kind of like the testing round, right? With the information they have, kind of the stuff you're talking about. I'm sure those are the kind of conversations Ty Lue's having. What does he roll with? What do the Mavs roll with? And kind of what does round 1 look like here? Happening on a Sunday in Los Angeles.
And you know where you're getting the coverage right here. Vlog of the game. I'll be there, of course. And here's the thing. I'm hoping this is the first time we see Kawhi in front of a sold-out Clipper playoff crowd. It's going to be the first time we see Luka in front of a sold-out Clipper playoff crowd, which would be interesting. But I think the key is, anytime you play the Mavs, how are you guarding Luka in the pick and roll? Who are you allowing to be switched onto him, and how are you guarding the pick and rolls with the big? So what's been really tough about playing Dallas in the past is that drop coverage doesn't work on Luka. He exposes you. And then when you switch Zubats onto Luka, he would destroy him and just create enough space to take that step back 3 and knock it down over and over. So we went to our small ball lineups that saved us because Porzingis wouldn't take advantage of mismatches, and we could switch everything with guys like Nico, guys like Morris. We don't have those kind of wings anymore. We've only the most frequent small ball lineup that we played this season has only played 35 plus minutes. They haven't even played. There's been no small ball lineup that we've had 40 minutes with, Edwin. And it's 2-1-3, James Harden, Norman Powell, and Amir Coffey. That lineup has done pretty well, that small ball lineup. So expect to see a little bit of that. Maybe even sometimes Terrence instead of Amir, or Russ instead. But the lineup that has been the best for the Clippers this season, like in terms of net rating and stuff, and just the lineup that's been great for a lot of those big runs, is James, Kawhi, Paul, Zoo, Norman Powell. That's been the top lineup. So we're just going to see how much they go to that. Expect a lot. But here's my thing. This time around, if Zubats gets played off the floor, we're in major trouble because we don't have the same switch everything personnel as we once did. That's going to ask Kawhi to play a lot of the 5, or PJ Tucker, who I honestly don't think should touch the floor in this series. But the key is going to be a couple of things to exploit. It's going to be hard to exploit it, but one, there is no clear third guy for Dallas. If you can funnel the ball to those other guys as much as possible, that's what you want to do. PJ Washington, not been shooting the 3 ball super well. Tim Hardaway Jr. is in a massive slump. Derrick Jones Jr. has had a good, solid season shooting the ball from three, but you want to make these guys shoot. Outside of Luka and Kyrie, that's the thing. So when they stagger, and it's inevitably going to be them staggering, I wouldn't mind blitzing Luka for those minutes. Make PJ Washington make a decision, or make Maxi Kleba make a decision and force them to kick it out and funnel the ball to those shooters and live with the results. Just take the ball out of Luka's hands. He'll get a good shot for the team, but you're picking your poison at that point. And also, how selective are we going to be with our switching? Is James Harden going to switch on a Luka every time he gets put in the action? Is Norm Powell going to get switched on a Luka every time he gets put in the action? How will the Clippers' weak point of attack defense stack up? We haven't been that good of a point of attack. So that's what concerns me, especially with Kyrie Irving. But on our side, Derrick Jones is going to guard Paul George to start games. PJ will guard Kawhi. Who does that leave? James Harden. Who's going to be checking him as the primary guy? Kyrie Irving. Kyrie's been a much better defender this year. But if you're James Harden and you see Kyrie guarding you, come on. You got to be creating good shots. You got to be creating good shots for the team. And I think you said Westbrook. I think Westbrook could win you a game. But I don't know how many minutes he's going to get to be the Westbrook that he always is in terms of winning or losing you a game. But he's seen inconsistent minutes all year. But James Harden, I don't think we can win this series without him having a good series. Agreed. Notice I said good, not great, but he needs to have a good series. That doesn't necessarily mean scoring, but he's got to be creating good shots and not being awful defensively. He's got to get into his stuff quicker. He's got to dribble with a little more purpose, not waiting 12 seconds to get into the action. And hopefully, and a lot of what helps James Harden is Zubac's screen setting. If Zubac gets played off the floor, now Harden's now his pick and roll partner. So a lot is riding on if Zubac can stay on the floor, and I think that's going to be, I mean, at this point, it's huge for Zoo. He's had the best season of his career. So it'll be interesting to see who we switch on to guys. I think they're going to try to switch Gafford onto Kawhi, by the way, when Kawhi puts him in the pick and roll, to see if Kawhi can exploit the speed, even though he doesn't really have it. So they know that Kawhi, he's not really getting by guys. I think they'll switch their 5-man on him at times. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy series. Crazy.
It's nuts. Both sides. I think a lot of people are going to be picking Denver. I think a lot of people are going to be picking Dallas. So it's LA versus everybody in this one. Obviously, I think the Clippers, Dallas, you're going to see a lot more of a balance. Like it'll be 60-40. I think probably Dallas in terms of, we'll see what the talking heads think. But I think people will understand, hey, it's the 4-5. Like it's pretty even. And LA does have the advantage home court. So, you know, and like you said, there's some issues there with Kyrie as well, especially defensively. So, and Ty Lue's a great coach. He knows how to adjust. He's done it before, backs against the wall, and figured it out. So,
but I will say though, I have to say though, part of the reason we were down 0-2 last time was because Ty Lue kept letting Zubac switch on a Luka. It was like he'd had a great season the whole year, Ty Lue. Then the first two games of that series, because that's part of the reason he got the adjustment king moniker, is that he made adjustments after we went down 0-2. But we won't have the same leash this time. We won't have the same room for error this time around. We can't. But here's the thing: he also knows the Clippers better. He's had Kawhi Leonard and Paul George longer, and we haven't talked about Paul. We haven't talked about Paul George enough, but he has to have a good series too. I mean, it's not like he can just shit the bed and we're fine. He needs to be great.
He needs to be great.
It's really going to come down to how good this Clips defense is, because in the regular season, had some great stretches, had some awful stretches. Terrence Mann will be interesting to see how he plays, because his shooting has gotten a lot better in the new year. He's kind of returned to his old self, but defensively, he's probably had his poorest defensive season as a Clipper. He struggled with the main guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does that. But the last thing I have to say is I want to see if they'll start Zubac on Derrick Jones to keep him out of the action. So when Luka tries to run his pick and roll with Gafford, Kawhi will be on Gafford and they'll switch Kawhi on to Luka. It's just going to be, it's just cinema. Would you say it's the best series? I mean, Lakers Nuggets.
Yeah, it's just, you know what? I'm just an addict for this stuff. Like, the more you're talking to me, I'm like, can we start the game now? I know it's like midnight in LA, but I'm like, I want to watch this now. I can't wait. I can't wait for the weekend.
I think it is a Russ series, by the way. I think this is a good series for Russ. He actually might guard Luka at times. And you know, when Russ is like put on a good player, the level of pride he takes is like, it goes to a different level. And then he'll try to go at him. Right.
And even with the Lakers, with Russ, right? When he felt like they're trying to target me, he's like, "Oh, you think you could target me? I got you." And that was when you see the good defense, Russ. And for the Lakers, we're like, "Well, why can't you do that all the time?" But like, if he feels like you think he's meat out there, he'll attack. He's like, "Oh no, I'm not food. No way. I'm not. Watch this. I'm gonna get a turnover. I'm gonna get you in foul trouble. I'm gonna force you into a bad shot. I'm gonna block a shot. And guess what? Next thing you know, he's clapping, he's hyped up, and he's like, yeah, let's do this. You want to go at me? I got you. I'm not the one. Like, pick somebody else because it's not happening. I'm not here. Not to me. You pick somebody else because it's not going to happen to me. And that's when you get the good Russ, right? The good Russ, the Jekyll Hyde with him sometimes, which is often, especially now that he's older and all that. Like, you're going to get that. And I think you're going to see that as well. There'll definitely be a play where he gets a steal, he gets a block, he passes forward, you know, a dunk from PG. He's hyping the crowd up. The wall is going crazy. Ballmer's getting memed. And you're like, oh, guess what? Luka's crying to the refs. It's 12-7 Clippers, timeout. And you're like, okay, here we are. It's a battle. So I'm so excited. Before we go on to the Lakers, because they're actually that we should have started with them because of the order, but I wanted to kind of like, break up the Lakers show here. We got to make a prediction, at least for this series.
Yeah.
So Clippers, Mavs, what happens?
I'm going to go with the Clippers in 7 games. I think we'll get pushed to the distance, of course, but we should win the series. I think it's interesting because it's a series where both teams have pressure. Luka finally has help. So if he loses, he can't say that he doesn't have help. But
No.
The Clippers got to win, man. There's so much pressure on us to win a championship. We've talked about it all year. It's championship or bust. You got to win. So I'm going to go with Clips in 7. Going to need playoff Kawhi to go God mode. But I'll say this about James Harden. He hasn't lost in the first round since 2016, and he's participated in the playoffs every year. So in the first round, James Harden has had some success. But he hasn't played a team like this in the first round in a minute. So it's a different task altogether.
I've tossed and turned about this. Who am I going to pick? Am I going to pick? Who am I going to go with? My basketball ideology is being tested. All types of stuff. I'm going Clippers in 7.
Well, okay.
I'm going Clippers in 7. I think the Harden stuff gets a little exaggerated in the playoffs. I think people remember his worst moments and not his best. Like you said, he in the first round, he takes care of business. I think he's ready. I think that we're going to see them be better defensively. I think they have a few more weapons, a few more players, the X factors, Zoo, Russ, Harden, PG. I think there's more on the Clippers side, and people just fall in love with Luka and think, oh, those two guys are so good. And yeah, maybe they will break the game. Maybe they will also grow up and win. But you know what? They haven't done it yet. You're still on the road. You're a team that had to rally to get to this position for a reason. There's flaws there. It's very top heavy. Even the biggest Mavs fans are like, oh, yeah, we got no bench. And I'm like, okay, it's a 7-game series where you're the road team playing like this. All we need is just a little subpar game from Kyrie or Luka in 1 or 2. That's an L. And then you're on the road, game 7. I mean, we've seen it already. We've seen the story. The question is Kyrie enough? I think he's almost enough. Because guess what? The other side got better too. They got Russ. They got Harden. They still have PG. They still have Kawhi. They still have a Tyler who's made the adjustments and grown as a coach as well. So I think it's going to be one of those moments where Norman Powell's another one, right? Good point. I think this is another one where you're like, you almost got them. And I think maybe next year's the year. But again, they need some reinforcements there. And I think it's going to be a great series. It's going to be entertaining. I think that the Clippers will have just enough, and they'll advance to the second round. And we'll get there when we get there. But that 1-8, I think that's looking good for the Clippers too. So it might be a deep run, but it's one of those ones. I think it's literally the winner of this series goes to the Western Conference Finals. So it's going to be very interesting. Kind of like the Lakers were in that same scenario last year. I'm like, oh, if they win the first round, I actually think they're going to go to the finals, the Western Conference Finals. And I think the Clippers Mavs, I'll say this, the winner of this series will go to the Western Conference Finals. They're beating the 1-8 game. I don't even care what happens there. They're beating them. Barring injury, of course. They're healthy. The winner of this series goes to the Western Conference Finals. So a lot at stake, but that's where we're at. So I'm going Clippers in 7 as well. And now we're going to the series